Hello everybody, thank you for joining me. This weekend is the March for Women. Well, that's not going to happen as a march this year, of course, but it's going to be an online celebration of the role of women in society and a plea for greater involvement of women in leadership, in business, in government and in every walk of life. It's a campaign March for Women with four being the figure four. March for Women is organised by Care International UK, and their campaign for better roles for women in leadership also involves, of course, a more congenial working environment for women. And information on their website reminds us that it's a global phenomenon, this harassment of women in the workplace. Bofa in Cambodia, for example, says, a co-worker said to me, "Why do you dress like that? You are ugly." And when I told him to stop, he laughed it off and told me not to be too serious. And Elizabeth in Ecuador, she was constantly harassed, she says, but when she told her aunt what was happening, she didn't believe me. She said I was lazy and I was making it all up. And then Sarah in Egypt, whenever she was harassed, people said, "You're shameless, you're insolent, it must be your fault, you provoked him by the way you dress." This kind of harassment is something that those of us who are men participating in watching this video need to be on the lookout for, and to make sure we stand up against at every possible opportunity, and certainly not to indulge in anything remotely like it. But I'm aware that some of the things that happen in that kind of harassment are also something which people of both sexes can be involved in, and with people of both sexes. I'm thinking particularly of the way in which frequently the women I've just mentioned describe the reaction when they complain, "Oh, you're taking it too seriously. It's really just a joke." And I'm aware how often it is the case that laughter, jokes can be used to put people down in all sorts of situations, not just sexually. And somehow, if a joke is made of it, it sort of is okay, but the person who's the butt of the joke feels awful. And I think all of us need to be aware of the danger of that happening. And even though it's difficult to criticise a joke, to do so if it's going to hurt, if that joke hurt somebody. And the other theme that emerged very much from what the women I've quoted said is that they weren't listened to. Whenever they complained, they found that they were criticised themselves or just ignored. And I think all of us, and particularly those of us who are men in the situation where harassment of women is involved, but all of us in all sorts of situations, need to keep our ears and eyes open, so that if we sense there's somebody who needs to say something or is trying to say something, to give them space, perhaps to us individually, but also maybe in the workplace in a wider context, to support them in being heard. Sarah in Egypt says that when she found that someone else was listening to her, was responding to her, she said, "It felt like I'd been in a cage which had finally broken open. And if by listening people, helping people to speak, we enable them to gain that freedom that comes from breaking out of the restrictions of silence into a new freedom, then we're really supporting and helping them." So I'm going to keep a watch out for the jokes that I laugh at, and to make sure that I keep my ears open to listen to the people who want to be listened to.